Take a deep, slow breath and let your shoulders drop. For years, you may have been carrying an invisible, heavy backpack filled with worries, constantly anticipating disasters that haven't even arrived. We are taught to fight for control, to force outcomes, and to grip life as tightly as possible. But eventually, there comes a quiet, defining moment of exhaustion when you finally decide to stop fighting reality. Letting go of this worry is not about giving up on your dreams. Instead, it is about removing the anxious mental friction that actually blocks your path. When you stop obsessing over every little outcome and release the desperate need for control, life naturally begins to organize itself. The moment you stop worrying is the exact moment everything starts to fall into place. The anatomy of worry, why we clench our fists. To understand why letting go feels so incredibly difficult, we first need to look at why we hold on so tightly in the first place. If you find yourself constantly trapped in a cycle of overthinking, you must realize one fundamental truth: you are not broken. In fact, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do over thousands of years, keeping you safe. Long ago, anticipating the absolute worst-case scenario was a matter of survival. The ancestors who survived were the ones who constantly scanned the horizon for danger. Today, however, that same primitive survival mechanism is still running in the background of our modern lives. Only now, that danger isn't a predator in the wild, it is a missed deadline, a financial uncertainty, a silent phone, or a fear of the unknown future. We are using ancient survival hardware to navigate complex modern emotions, and the result is a perpetual state of inner alarm. We clench our fists, holding our breath and bracing for impacts that rarely ever arrive. Over time, we become conditioned to believe a very quiet, very dangerous lie: the illusion that worry is a form of productivity. Deep in our subconscious, we think that if we just obsess over a problem long enough, if we analyze every possible angle of disaster, we are somehow protecting ourselves from it. We treat anxiety like a down payment on future pain. We think, if I worry about this now, it won't hurt as much if things go wrong. But worry is not preparation. Worry is simply suffering in advance. It demands your precious time, drains your spiritual energy, and offers absolutely nothing of value in return. You replay past conversations in your head, trying to rewrite history. You project yourself years into the future, trying to solve problems that haven't even taken shape yet. In all of this frantic mental pacing, you completely abandon the only place where your life actually exists, the present moment. Worrying is like paying heavy interest on a debt you may never owe. It steals the peace of today to pay for a tragedy of tomorrow that might never actually happen. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a profound metaphor about a jar of muddy water. When the water is shaken, the dirt swirls, and the water becomes completely opaque. You cannot see through it. This is exactly what worry does to the human mind. Every fearful thought, every what if, and every panicked scenario is a violent shake of that jar. When your mind is agitated, you lose your clarity. Your deep inner intuition is silenced by the loud, demanding voice of fear. You cannot see the beautiful solutions that are resting right in front of you because your vision is completely clouded by the debris of overthinking. But what happens when you set the jar down? You don't have to force the dirt to the bottom. You don't have to reach in and try to push the mud down with your hands. All you have to do is leave it alone. The moment you stop agitating the water, the dirt naturally begins to settle on its own, and the water becomes crystal clear once again. Your mind works in the same way. Peace is not something you have to forcefully manufacture. It is your natural, resting state beneath all that mental noise. You just have to be willing to set the jar down. We hold up the sky with our bare hands, exhausted and terrified of what will happen if we let our arms rest. But the grand illusion of worry is realizing that the sky is perfectly capable of holding itself up. You just have to be brave enough to unclench your fist and see what happens when you stop trying to control the wind. The illusion of control and the freedom of acceptance. At the very root of all our worry is a single, deeply ingrained misunderstanding about how life actually works. We suffer because, on a subconscious level, we believe we are the general managers of the universe. We think it is our personal responsibility to micromanage every outcome, to predict every variable, and to bend reality to fit our exact timeline. But trying to control the uncontrollable is an exhausting job you were never meant to have. Ancient philosophies, from Stoicism to Buddhism, teach us a vital lesson known as the dichotomy of control. In life, there is a clear boundary between what belongs to you and what belongs to the universe. What belongs to you? Your effort, your intentions, your kindness, your work ethic, and your response to adversity. These are the things within your hands. But what belongs to the universe? The timing of your success, the opinions of other people, the sudden changes in the economy, and the unpredictable weather of life. When you blur this boundary, when you try to take ownership of things that were never yours to control, you create immense suffering for yourself. Think about how much of your daily anxiety comes from trying to force another person to understand you, or trying to rush a season of your life that simply isn't ready to bloom yet. We cling so tightly to our specific expectations. We say, my life must look exactly like this by the time I am 30, or this specific person must love me back, or this exact opportunity must work out, or I will be ruined. This is what spiritual teachers call attachment. Attachment is the source of our deepest pain. The harder you grip a specific outcome, the more you end up pushing away the very thing you want. Imagine standing by a river, incredibly thirsty. You reach into the water and try to grab it with a clenched fist. What happens? The water slips right through your tight fingers. You squeeze harder, but it only escapes faster. It is completely impossible to hold water with a closed fist. But if you take a breath, relax your muscles, and simply open your hand, the water rests gently in your open palm. Love, success, healing, and opportunity, they all behave exactly like water. They cannot be captured by force, desperation, or anxiety. They flow most easily into hands that are open and relaxed. This brings us to one of the most powerful shifts you can ever make in your life, the shift from needing to desiring. When you say, I need this to happen, you are operating from a place of intense fear. You are telling your subconscious that without this specific outcome, you are incomplete, unsafe, or unworthy. That desperate energy chokes the natural flow of your life. But when you say, I desire this, everything changes. Desire is light. Desire is joyful. You can want a beautiful relationship, financial abundance, or a fulfilling career with your whole heart, but without strangling yourself with the need for it to happen right this second. You can pursue your goals with passion, while secretly knowing that your inner peace does not depend on the outcome. When you make this subtle shift, you become completely free. You stop living as a prisoner to the future. You do your absolute best today, and then you step back, open your hands, and allow life to surprise you. You finally accept that the universe might actually have a much bigger, more beautiful plan for you than the tiny, narrow outcome you were obsessing over. And in that beautiful space of acceptance, the heavy weight you've been carrying simply vanishes. The paradox of surrender, moving from force to flow. When you hear the word surrender, what is the first image that comes to your mind? For most of us, surrender is associated with defeat. We picture waving a white flag, giving up on our deepest dreams, and passively accepting whatever scraps life decides to throw our way. Modern society has taught us that the only way to succeed is to hustle endlessly, to push through barriers, and to force doors open even when they are locked. But this is where we encounter one of the most profound paradoxes of spiritual awakening. True surrender is not weakness. It is the ultimate, quiet act of courage. Spiritual surrender does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you sit on the couch and wait for the universe to magically deliver a perfect life to your doorstep. Surrender simply means you stop fighting reality. You drop the heavy weapons of anxiety, manipulation, and overanalysis that you have been using to try to force life to go your way. You stop demanding that the universe operate on your rushed, fear-based timeline. To understand this paradox, we must distinguish between forcing an outcome and allowing an outcome. Think of your energy as a physical current. When you operate from a place of force, it is like trying to push a massive boulder up a steep, muddy hill. Every step requires agonizing effort. You are exhausted, frustrated, and terrified that if you slip for even 1 second, the boulder will crush you. This is what life feels like when it is driven by anxiety. You might make progress, but the cost to your soul is immense. Now, imagine stepping away from the boulder and walking toward a fast-moving river. Instead of fighting the water, you build a boat, step inside, and allow the current to carry you forward. You still have to steer. You still have to be awake, present, and actively navigating the rocks. But the underlying energy is entirely different. You are no longer fighting the natural momentum of life, you are moving with it. This is flow. The difference between force and flow is not necessarily the action you take, it is the energy behind the action. Two people can perform the same task, starting a new project, looking for a partner, or healing from a loss. One person acts out of a desperate, panicked fear of being left behind. The other person takes the same steps, but from a place of grounded, quiet peace. They do the work, but they are not spiritually suffocated by the need for immediate validation. The person acting from peace is infinitely more powerful because they are not leaking their energy into worry. Furthermore, when you stop forcing, you do something incredibly important. You create space. The universe, in all its infinite wisdom, requires space to work its magic. If your mind is constantly packed to the brim with rigid plans, backup plans, catastrophic scenarios, and anxious chatter, there is simply no room for miracles to enter. You are so busy talking at life that you cannot hear what life is trying to tell you. A relaxed mind regains clarity, as the Buddhist teaching goes. When you finally take a breath and stop micromanaging the cosmos, your mind becomes spacious. In that beautiful, quiet emptiness, intuition begins to whisper. You suddenly notice a new opportunity, an unexpected connection, or a creative solution that was completely invisible to you when you were stressed. By stepping back and letting go of your rigid expectations, you stop blocking your own path. You allow the river to bring you exactly what is meant for you, precisely when you are ready to receive it. The energetics of detachment, how your state shapes your reality. There is a profound, almost invisible universal truth that many of us spend our entire lives resisting. The universe does not respond to your desires, it responds to your state of being. We are often taught that if we just want something badly enough, if we visualize it and ask for it with enough intensity, it will eventually manifest. But we fundamentally misunderstand how energy works. You can want a specific outcome with every ounce of your heart, but if your underlying energy is rooted in fear, panic, or a feeling of lack, that is the frequency the universe actually hears. Consider this carefully. You can repeat positive affirmations in the mirror 100 times a day, trying to convince yourself that everything will be fine. But if, deep down in your nervous system, your stomach is tied in knots, and you are gripping the steering wheel of your life with white knuckles, your dominant frequency is still fear. And fear operates like a powerful magnet for complications. It attracts the very obstacles and chaotic scenarios that validate its existence. When you worry too much, you believe you are actively solving problems, but energetically, you are placing a massive boulder directly in the stream of your own abundance. To understand this in practical terms, think about human interaction. Imagine walking into a room and meeting someone who is desperately trying to impress you, desperately trying to sell you something, or desperately wanting your approval. You can instantly feel that heavy, clinging energy. It feels suffocating, and your natural, instinctual reaction is to take a step back. Desperation acts as a universal repellent, whether you are trying to attract a loving relationship, a successful business deal, or inner peace. Desperation loudly broadcasts the message, I do not have enough, and I am terrified. Now, picture the exact opposite. Think of a person who is deeply, authentically at peace with themselves. They walk into the room knowing who they are. They are warm and engaged, but they do not need anything from you to feel complete. They are emotionally detached from how you perceive them. That kind of energy is incredibly magnetic. We are naturally drawn to people who emit quiet trust and grounded confidence. We trust them, we want to work with them, and we want to be around them. The universe responds in the same way. When your energy shifts from the desperate need to control every detail into a quiet, unwavering trust, you become a magnet for miracles. You stop pushing away the very things you are striving for. Love, financial stability, healing, and beautiful opportunities flow effortlessly toward those who have learned how to breathe, how to wait, and how to act without clinging. This is the true magnetism of peace. When you finally release your attachment to the outcome, you stop vibrating at the frequency of emergency. You signal to the world around you that you are safe, secure, and ready to receive. The heavy, invisible tension that once choked your potential dissolves. It is in this beautiful, spacious state of non-resistance that serendipity happens. You meet the right person at the exact right moment. An unexpected door swings open just as another one closes. You stop trying to forcefully extract what you want from the world, and instead, you create a deeply welcoming environment for it to arrive on its own. You realize that you never had to shout to be heard by life. You only needed to be quiet enough to let it find you. The daily practice, how to actually let go. Philosophy and intellectual understanding are beautiful foundations, but true transformation only happens in the messy, unpredictable reality of our daily lives. Knowing that you should let go is entirely different from actually doing it when a crisis hits, or when anxiety flares up in the quiet hours of the night. How do you bridge the gap between spiritual theory and lived experience? How do you train a deeply conditioned mind to release its iron grip when panic feels so overwhelmingly real? Mastery of letting go is not an overnight miracle. It is a gentle, daily practice built upon 3 simple, profound steps. Step 1. The observer effect. The first step to emotional freedom is creating a tiny, deliberate sliver of space between a thought and your reaction to it. Most of our daily suffering occurs because we blindly believe everything our anxious mind tells us. When a fearful thought arises, we immediately spiral down the rabbit hole, living out a future disaster in our bodies as if it were already happening. To break this exhausting cycle, you must learn to become the gentle observer of your own mind. Before you react, before you send a frantic message, or before you start mentally preparing for a catastrophe, force yourself to pause. Ask yourself one incredibly grounding question: is my mind creating a problem that doesn't exist yet? 9 times out of 10, the honest answer is yes. By simply watching your thoughts instead of instantly believing them, you strip away their power. You begin to realize a profound truth: you are not the storm of your thoughts, you are the vast, silent sky watching the storm pass. Step 2. Somatic regulation through the breath. It is vital to understand that anxiety is not just a mental loop, it is a deeply physical state. When you worry, your body enters an ancient fight or flight response. Your muscles tense, your stomach tightens, and your breathing becomes shallow and erratic. You cannot simply think your way out of a nervous system response, you have to breathe your way out of it. This is where somatic regulation becomes your greatest tool. When you catch yourself clenching your fists or holding your breath, consciously slow down. Take a deep, intentional breath deep into your belly, hold it for a brief moment, and then make your exhale noticeably longer than your inhale. This simple, mechanical act is a direct communication line to your nervous system. It sends a powerful, undeniable biological signal to your brain that says, "I am safe. There is no predator. I do not have to force anything right now. I can allow." Countless self-sabotaging mistakes are born from a contracted, panicked body, but beautiful solutions naturally appear when you breathe and let the physical pressure drop. Step 3. Grounded action and releasing the outcome. One of the greatest misconceptions about letting go is the fear that it will make you lazy. But letting go does not mean doing nothing. It simply means doing exactly what you can, and absolutely nothing more. Look at the situation causing you stress and clearly isolate your direct responsibilities. What is your part in this? Do your part with absolute excellence, full presence, and deep love. If you are building a project, do the best work possible today. If you are navigating a conflict, communicate with the utmost honesty and compassion. But once you have taken those grounded actions, you must deliberately cut the cord of attachment to the result. You must learn to whisper to yourself, "I have done my part, and I trust the rest to the universe." You do not have to solve your entire life today. You only have to handle the present moment. By separating your beautiful effort from the final, unpredictable result, you insulate your inner peace from the chaotic weather of the world. That is not naive or passive, it is the absolute pinnacle of spiritual intelligence. Conclusion: when the pieces fall into place. What happens when you truly master the art of letting go? Your entire perception of reality begins to change. The things that used to trigger deep anxiety suddenly lose their sharp edges. You no longer view delays as harsh punishments. Instead, you see them as necessary space for preparation and protection. You no longer see obstacles as insurmountable walls, but rather as gentle, guiding hands redirecting you toward a much better path. Surprises are no longer threats to your carefully crafted plans. They become beautiful gifts from a universe that is far more imaginative than an anxious mind could ever be. You must remember this final, comforting truth: life has never stopped working for you. It is only your own mind that sometimes stands in the way. Every time you worry too much, you accidentally close a door. Every time you try to forcefully control everything, you prevent the universe from doing its part. But the day you finally breathe, observe your thoughts, do your quiet part, and release your grip, everything changes. This transformation happens not because you gave up, but because you simply stopped suffocating your own destiny. You become freer, clearer, and deeply aligned. And an aligned being never has to force life. Life naturally and effortlessly aligns around them. You don't have to figure out your entire future today. Keep walking gently, wisely, and with profound trust. Everything you are seeking is already making its way to you. If this message brought peace to your heart and a little more clarity to your mind, please take a moment to subscribe to Buddha Coha to feed your spirit every day. Hit the like button to support this message, and write in the comments below, "I let the universe do its part." Let that be your quiet, powerful commitment today, your very first step toward a calmer, simpler, and more magical life. Thank you for walking this path with us.